in the room, and hopefully we will not be hearing live on the green this afternoon. But today we're here to talk about the creation of the Office for Music, Film, and Entertainment, as well as an Entertainment Commission. And so earlier this week, we had a roundtable conversation that the mayor had pulled together with some individuals, and I wanted to be sure that we included additional voices that were not in that room, but that this office and this commission will directly impact. So we're working on legislation right now on the creation of a commission that ultimately would work in conjunction with this soon-to-be created office. So I do have the questions that we were discussing earlier this week. And while we're not creating the office right now, the third question on here is in regards to the commission. So I'd really like to pick your brains about the commission. And the question that we have is discuss how an ongoing commission should be formed. Based on your experience, we are looking to gather feedback on the following items. How large should the commission be and how often should they meet? Who should serve on the commission and how should they be selected? And as it relates to the mission statement of the office, what should the commission focus on? So, over a year and a half, I've been researching offices to create film offices, film and music offices. So Seattle has a film and music office. Austin, of course, has film. Savannah, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, just to figure out how they built their structure. And every city is different, and Nashville is certainly unique in how we approach entertainment. But what I found is that every office did have a commission. And so I brought the idea of having an entertainment office to the mayor back in, I think, March or April, and they really liked that idea. And so that's how we ended up with the mayor making an announcement for the state of Metro that there was going to be the creation of this music, film, entertainment office. There was some money set aside, tremendously inadequate, but it's kind of the commitment to getting an office off the ground. Truthfully, this office probably needs $500,000 to get off the ground, with an executive director, a film coordinator, a music coordinator, and also an admin to really function, to really get what we want the office to do off the ground, which is, marketing and promoting, and also, building relationships within the community. So the commission is the advising body. So I recently had legislation for a one-body commission that contains all of our creative entities. There is legislation coming up for this week that proposes a commission that is just for film and television. And so wanted to get feedback, hear from you all what your thoughts are, and why. Do you think it should be two commissions? Should it be one commission? And how do we move forward? I would say, as I said, I had legislation for it to be one entity because my concern is we have not focused on everyone in terms of our creative industries. We've prioritized music over everything to the detriment of other industries. And so if we have one commission, we have an opportunity to rise everyone up at the same time. And then from there, figure out how we could have subcommittees to address any particular projects. So what say you? And you're new to the table.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us who you are and what you do?
Mike Schwartz. I'm a stunt coordinator for 33 years. That's all I do, and I'm highly interested in bringing more film and TV production here in Nashville, because the people that I talk to and some of the people that I've worked with in town here, and knowing myself how it works, and coming from California and working a lot in Atlanta, knowing how a film commission or a committee works, Nashville is a joke for somebody wanting to come and make a film or a TV show here. So that's why I'm at this meeting, so I can give my input on the film side of it.
Excellent.
And to answer one of your questions, I don't like the idea of it being under one umbrella with music, because I think music has its own driving force here because it is Nashville. People, if they want to shoot a music video here, it's been done here forever. And I just hate to, it's like having the fire department work with the police department. You know, they're in the same building, and to me, it needs to be completely separate if Tennessee wants to draw in production. And it needs to be easy and streamlined, which is, it's totally not right now.
Okie dokie. Anyone else?
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a slightly different opinion, which is that if there's going to be one office that handles film, music, and entertainment and whatever else that it has to do, and if the purpose of the office is to facilitate and to be a liaison with the mayor and government, I think the commission does need to deal with the office directly and all those areas, because whoever the staff is going to have to respond to all of those industries, and therefore they should be advised on all those industries. But there was an idea that was presented on Tuesday night, which was to have a central commission that deals with all the branches of entertainment, but to have them have committees. And because music is so large, and because they have their own set of issues, ongoing issues, and because there's so much brick and mortar here for their production companies and their distribution companies, there's going to be people who want to sit on that committee that we'd be better off not having be on the main commission, because there'll be too many people. So, you know, my thought, and what I thought there was a certain amount of consensus on Tuesday, was to have one commission, have a giant music committee that deals with their stuff, and then they will send a representative to the commission, and then have another committee that deals with film and television, and they will send representatives to the main commission, and then the commission itself can be balanced so it doesn't get pulled away by one group or the other. That's how I kind of think it would work, and even the music people seem to agree with that. And it allows them also to have a body of their own, their committee, that can hash out all of the issues that affect them, and then they can send their committee chair or whoever to go and be a representative on the main single commission that oversees the office.
So the subcommittees would be members of the commission, but also could be outside members that fall within those particular industries. And then you'd have voices from the main commission that were a part of those committees that could bring it back to the general body to discuss what's happening.
Right, and perhaps you take either you take the chairperson of the committees and you make them be a seated representative on the commission, or you take the representative from that industry on the commission and you make them be chair by virtue of their seat on the, so there's always somebody to feed the information back and forth.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
You would agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. But my only thing is that make sure that who's ever on those committees really is familiar with that particular
Industry.
Right.
So the legislation that I just had, and we ended up, due to technicality, deferring it. I did indefinitely defer it, and once you bring it back, if you don't vote it up or down, you end up having to withdraw it. So that's what ended up happening here. The requirement was 5 years of experience within your industry to be qualified to be on the commission, period, and to have local, national, and possibly international credits, so people would know that you're really bringing experience to the table, and not I've just been making YouTube videos in my basement for 5 years.
Yeah, one of the issues is that in the film world, for example, there are two there are two main branches. There are the people who make independent films here, and then there are the people that work on projects that are brought in from out of state. And so it would be good to have, for example, on the film committee, people from both of those areas, because they have very, very differing needs.
Like what, for example?
Well, for example, and I represent people who work in both branches, but the local producers, for example, they want to deal with, they want an incentive that helps local companies instead of the way the incentive is set up now, which is mostly, the franchise and excise tax incentive mostly addresses larger media corporations that pay franchise and excise tax in Tennessee. And a small, independent film company wouldn't have access to that. That's for one. And the other thing is they're very interested in finance and distribution, which is an important thing, but it isn't necessarily something that this office could deal with. But if there was something that they needed that could be facilitated by this office or by the city, that would give them a thing. And those are two examples of things that the larger companies that come in that we recruit from out of town wouldn't care about.
The office, hopefully, will address some soft incentive opportunities. I think that's where we're helping out with local productions in terms of office rentals, in terms of, heads and beds, those taxes. And when we delve into that conversation, because this week's conversation really was just a Kickstarter, there's many more conversations to be had about what the office itself is going to do. But incentives are very crucial, and I know from my research that most towns there's the state incentive, but there's also a local incentive. And that way you have a double whammy to draw people to your city to get more work done. So I think that's certainly something in the proposal that I put together that I've suggested that we do here as
Are
well.
those incentives for union and non-union? Does it matter?
No, it's for any production that's coming so that we can maximize. We're leaving money on the table right now. I mean, we're very hard to work here, as you said. We're a joke because we're not streamlined. Permitting is a mess. Location scouting is all over the place. We're basically, you're on your own when you come to town.
Yeah.
Aside from, here's this permit application that you're going to do through the mayor's office, but it's really not a film office. It's just a permit office. And, specific questions you can't get done. How do I get in touch with NES? How do I get in touch with Metro Water? How I need to turn something off. I need a security guard. All of these things. The future office should streamline this, have a directory. I think the commission could also be very helpful in starting a directory that is, whether that's dealing with diversity and equity initiatives, also location scouting, makeup artists, stylists, a variety of needs that we have right now that you're just kind of on your own. You could reach out to the state, but the state really isn't responsible for individual cities. The state is really compiling what the city should be giving to them. So I think, this is our opportunity to do our part in order to make that happen. Are there... In mentioning having a directory, are there things that you would want to see in a directory?
Qualifications. Because the one directory that Nashville, whatever directory it is that I look up, the Nashville, the government.
That's the state directory.
The state directory, yeah, I think it's a joke.
Okay, what would you want to see
First of all, it's
different?
difficult to look up somebody. Like if you open up that first page, and how I do is I look up and I type in stunt. You got to jump through a bunch of layers of hoops to. You wouldn't think there's any stunt people in Tennessee.
Okay.
I think that, and then when you finally get to it, and I randomly pick some of the people that list their occupation as a stunt person, and I look them up. They wrestled in high school, and then they did a local show at the mall. I mean,
So it's the qualifications like the commission, really to have like real credits to your name of what you've worked on.
right, because I think, and I try and look at it as a producer's point of view. where they're going, hey, you know what? Let's look into Nashville to film in Nashville. Let's see what kind of crew we can get. We're doing an action movie. We need someone that stunt people. Do we have stunt people there? Do we have a picture car coordinator where we can bring cars in? Do we have bathrooms and dressing rooms and stuff? To someone that wants to come here and spend $20 or $30 million and above to do that movie. Well, what can we do? Hey, well, here, look in Tennessee, but let's get a location scout. We can ask them questions, and if they have 2 out of these 5 things that we have to have for our movie, then we can seriously consider this a location where they want to spend their money and film it.
Excellent. Okay. You, sir, what is your name and
My name
what do
is
you do?
Jay Dasgupta, and thank you for doing this for us. And I'm sorry, I apologize for traffic and just meetings.
I'm agree,
Got a
no
little late.
worries.
I love what I'm hearing. One of the things I would love to talk about is that, the future of film and TV is constantly changing. And while we definitely need what we are talking about in terms of traditional TV and filmmaking, right? So I worked on a show here. I've worked on shows in LA and New York. But on top of that, we are sort of like Mike. I have a company that is geared towards AI productions, right? And that's going to be a major part of the future of filmmaking and storytelling. And so I would love to sort of think about not just in terms of like these traditional things that we need to do, which we definitely need to do. We definitely need to have a directory. We definitely need to think about diversity inclusion, which is a huge problem in the state of Tennessee. I was on a show where I was a crew. It was a crew of, I want to say 200, because it was a major network show. And I can guarantee you I was the only South Asian in it, right? This city specifically has a huge Kurdish population, huge Somalian population. These are people we could be helping as we sort of grow this industry, right? Like there has to, more than just diversity and inclusion initiatives, I think there would be beneficial things that the city can do where we help encourage traditionally sort of underrepresented populations within the city to come be a part of it, like, just kind of teach people these skills. You're already kind of putting them into the workforce in that way, which helps the city in general. But yeah, I also really want to think about what is the future of AI productions and VR and AR and all of that stuff. And now some of that, I'm hearing a lot of things about credits and qualification. That's all great. But as we get into frontier tech, as we get into frontier production, no one's going to be able to compete on that level, right? Like there's no IMDb for what I do, right? My clients are Meta and Google and Amazon and Apple, but like that's on me. Like, yeah,
So I guess I would say there are 2 things. You brought up a lot of really great points. One, the outreach, I think, is workforce development, is how do we show our youth, our students, that's building community relationships so that we can start working on apprenticeship. What does it look like to be behind the camera, behind the scenes, because that's where it's all happening, really. So that is one of the endeavors of the commission, to work on community outreach and building towards workforce development opportunities. One of the things that came up on Tuesday was not using the title of music, film, and entertainment, but rather this commission being about content creation, so that this might be an entertainment creation commission, and then AI is included, so that it's not being left off the table, and we're not making it so specific. We are making it general enough that you still have committees, that if you had someone on the commission who's working in AI, then if you need that subcommittee, you can pull people in to be on that subcommittee. But you have that one person that's representing on the overarching commission, which I think is good. To your point about qualifications within the AI field, I think if you could, I guess it's about how we would word it to say, in 5 years of experience in established industries, but within AI, Meta, as that is so new, if you can prove that you've worked on projects that are strong, national, viable products,
Right.
then that will demonstrate that you have that experience. So it's a good point. It's all about how we word it, but I think it's good because who knows what the next frontier is going to be, and we want to be sure that we are able to include that.
Absolutely.
Or whatever anybody is doing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
So in what you describe as AI production, how are those staffed, and what are the physical needs for that kind of production?
Well, so I mean, those productions obviously, it varies project to project and kind of what we are testing, right? So one of the things that'll always be a need is going to be participant pool, right? And now in AI production, we don't necessarily need SAG actors or even non-union actors all the time. Sometimes we want regular workforce people because some of the things that are being tested, let's say by the Microsoft HoloLens or ARIA glasses from Facebook, we're testing things where we want to see what the everyday usage looks like. So that's like one big thing. But as far as the crew capacity goes, crew capacity is still very much transferable from traditional film and TV, because you're still, like, you're not going to call someone a producer because they become more like a project manager in this field. But, so a producer or an AD can certainly become a project manager for one of these projects. You're still going to need operators that go from like traditional camera operating to operating either ARIA glasses or HoloLenses or anything like that.
It's kind of like animation and
Right.
like CG animation and stuff.
You still need directors who are going to be able to explain to the actors/participants what they need to achieve in terms of their performance. So all of these roles still exist. It's just kind of a little bit different, kind of like a little twist.
But are you shooting with humans on a set or a volume?
Sometimes. It's not always going to be on a set, because some of this capture is trying to mimic, so instead of always being on a set or a volume, you're also renting out locations. There's going to be need for locations because like, for example, one of my last projects was testing out I can't tell you who the client is, but it was called Activities, and it's a matter of like using a set of glasses to chop fruit and whatever, and make omelets and make
You
coffee.
say glasses to chop and.
I mean like special glasses, right? We're talking like tech glasses. So what these companies are testing through my company or other companies like me, there are no other companies like mine, but like that, what they're testing is how do those things kind of come into reality, right? Like, so for us to be able to graduate to the level of future AR when we wear glasses, and Meta already has ARIA glasses, which look like regular glasses, and they're trying to build the future into metaverse where those glasses can be worn as you walk down the street and it can do a bunch of things for you. But to do that, we need real life environment stuff. Sometimes we can do it in volumes or sets, but sometimes we're gonna need regular locations like any other film set, because the need for the project becomes so specific. That's what we are testing. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I've certainly written your concerns down, and I think giving the commission a different name so that it has an overarching umbrella makes it a lot more palpable and a lot more inclusive, because I want to steer away from making people feel like they're not the priority, because I think that's what we've done in the past, and replicating that it would be our mistake now. I feel like we really have a moment here and now to have lightning in a bottle to actually get the things done that have been broken in the past. So I'm going to ask you all, how large should the commission be? If we're talking about breaking out into subcommittees, what is a sustainable number?
Well, I can talk to that. I think that building on what they said, the committee should be big enough to have a variety of experience in different fields. But I feel like on boards like this or commissions like this, it's really kind of an executive committee that does a lot of the functioning. So if it's a board or commission that has anywhere from 11 to 21 people, then you could represent a bunch of people and then elect from that different an executive committee to then kind of guide the whole thing, and then bring in more committee members that aren't necessarily on the commission for those different boards.
Okay.
That's just based on boards that I've been in, commissions that I've been involved in the past.
Well, I'm thinking about, in boards or not-for-profit boards and things like that, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if it's an advisory board or commission for this office, do they need to have an executive committee? Do they have executive work to do, or is it mostly just getting together, advising and consulting, and then the staff of the office will operate it?
Maybe it's before there. It depends on if this commission happens before there is an office. Maybe that.
Hopefully that's what happens.
Helps guide the formation of the office, and so maybe after there is an office, it goes away.
Well, if in what I found, commissions help to hire executive directors, help come up with the strategic planning for the office, helping with the promotion and the marketing, helping with the community engagement to get it off the ground, because these are the individuals that are already working within those spheres in their industries. So to get it off the ground, they're automatically pouring that knowledge into whoever comes into the office. And I think ultimately the office then does studies. So, if the commission says, hey, we have a need, we need this information, then they will ask, can you get this study done? The commission maybe look into what the studies are needed, whether it's in film, music, AI, whatever it is, and then the office will execute it and bring that information back. Does that sound like it makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got 11 to 21. How often should they meet? Is it bi-monthly? I feel like getting an office off the ground, this is something that probably needs to meet more often than not.
Well, I would think at the point that they're hiring staff and designing policy, they should probably meet relatively frequently. That could be even once a week during that period. But once the office is running, monthly seems more than adequate. I can't remember how often the Memphis Commission meets. They have a regular meeting, but it's not.
Sometimes commissions like this are even just quarterly too.
Right.
Once it becomes something that's
once
running.
it gets
Yeah.
established. So we're looking at a couple years on that. So at least to get started, I think monthly would probably be good. But perhaps in getting the office off the ground, maybe to get started, like in that first year, maybe they're meeting every 2 weeks. So twice a month to get it off the ground.
Well, just to consider candidates, to recruit candidates for office positions, that's going to be time consuming, and if you don't meet frequently,
It'll fall apart, yeah.
apart.
I do think that there is a sort of like sweet spot there, right? Like I think like the issue, you know, I'll speak a little bit about myself. I was, you know, I'm a Nashville native, went to Hillsborough, grew up here, went to Georgetown GW, went to USC for film, went to UT Med for medicine.
Wow, okay.
So I've had this world of both like working in the industry from being on shows, like Tell Me a Story or, other shows in LA. But also I've gone to film school at USC, so I have the advantage of having been on both sides of this equation of being on boards for fellowships or commissions and some things like that. And I can tell you that every single group I've been a part of, like when it becomes like, yeah, we meet too frequently, it's really hard to sustain that over time, because we're gonna if we are actual professionals who are in this industry, who actually work in production, your production is gonna take up time. And so like then it becomes like, yeah, we're meeting, but half the people are not actually coming to these meetings. Then what's really the point of like having however many members there are in this meeting? So in this commission, so I think it's always best to sort of like find the sweet spot of like too few versus too many, right? It's this like thing of like, and I think it may just have to be like a monthly or even a bi-monthly thing, because like Max was talking about, right? Like there are commissions that I know that meet quarterly, and maybe we don't have to go there quite at the beginning. And I do agree there is some urgency into getting people into the positions, but the pandemic has taught us that like a lot of these things can be done remotely, so doesn't always have to be a in-person meeting, right? Like it's just like, hey.
Well, for us, yes, it does, because the governor has stripped us of our opportunity and ability to meet virtually. It's unfortunate. So we are stuck.
Reference, the board meets 4 times a year from Memphis, and the officers meet
Well, they've got a
8
suite.
times a year.
Oh, yeah, they've got a sweet thing going of
Yeah.
like 25, 30 years strong.
Yeah.
What about, because I think to your points about getting the commission going and staffing, so something about maybe for the first 6 months it's meeting twice a month, because then you're able to look at resumes and all that good stuff. Gives you 6 months to look at that, figure out an executive director. Then that director's going to be figuring out who they want as their 2 coordinators, but then in the same time starting to get things together for workforce development. How do we build those relationships? Who has those already? Who can build a database to get that started? But also the initiatives that we've talked about in terms of DEI, and making sure that is I think that for me, I want to include that as a subcommittee, that is work that is actively done, because it is all well and good to talk about DEI, and then if you don't commit to it and it's not on paper, then it's not going to get done. And people are like, oh, well, we've got, this person that's not doing anything. We want to be intentional and make sure that we're making sure that all the voices that are here in town that are represented from all the backgrounds.
Well, just to comment on that, as often as the central commission meets, these committees can meet frequently and should
Yes.
meet frequently, and that is going to double or quadruple the workload of the people who are serving on the commission, because they will be both committee representatives and commissioners. So some of the work that you're talking about that needs to be done on a day-to-day basis, like the DEI work or planning, that can be done by
It's
by
a
the
subcommittee.
committees. So the main commission doesn't have to meet to discuss all those things.
Oh, no, that was that's a subcommittee, then that's what I wanted to.
And do they need a planned schedule, the subcommittees, or can they meet as required?
As needed?
Because for example,
You tell me. What do you think? So, I mean, if there's a particular project that's coming up, it might only have a certain time frame so that committee could meet until it's needed and then be done. I think the long-term things, workforce development or DEI, those are probably standing committees. And then we could have ad hoc committees as needed for those individuals that want to participate that are on the general commission or have a need or discover a need for something and want to pull a subcommittee together. And I think the requirements for the subcommittee, though, also need to be similar to what we're asking for the commission, so we don't have a mishigash. I think we do need to be very intentional that this is a mix, that this is executives as well as boots on the ground, so that this is, you don't have this 30,000-foot perspective and have no clue of what's really going on a day-to-day set. So I think that needs to be really clear as well. Okay, so monthly meeting for commission, but in the first 6 months, maybe twice a month. Then we go to monthly, and as things get more settled, then then the commission could decide, they could vote and say, we'd like to meet quarterly. And that's just something that could be amended down the road. And subcommittees could meet as needed.
I mean, even in the beginning, like the easy way to do it is kind of like do a cascading thing, right? Like whenever the commission meets that week, there's no subcommittee meeting, but then the week after there's a subcommittee meeting and people can sort of cascade in. So the work is constantly being done and kind of like leapfrogging your way through that development.
That sounds good. Okay, so the second question was who should serve on the commission and how should they be selected? So Peter and Max are very familiar. The previous legislation had broken down into the film industry, the music industry, and then entertainment that covered everything else, so that we knew who we were selecting from. I think it's important that we have all of those things listed so that we don't miss anyone. One of the things that came up in the meeting this week was we had someone from fashion, and in my original bill I included fashion because I knew we have stylists. You need stylists for music videos, you need stylists for film, but then there's fashion just itself, and we here in town have a fashion week, which is not really getting a lot of attention. So figuring out how we have a representative from multiple areas at the table, and then if you need to do subcommittee work, you can, but at least everyone in one room gets to hear about what's happening across industries. So people might not know about stunts and the need for it here, but if we have someone with some background on the commission, then yay, they get to hear about it and they understand what the needs are. And discuss it. I mentioned the qualifications about the 5 years and in terms of having credits, but one of the things that we're talking about in terms of putting people on is appointments by council, appointment by the mayor, and then you can have names that are submitted from the entertainment industry here in town itself. So, and how that works is, are you all familiar with the Community Oversight Board?
Yes.
So the way that's set up is it's mayoral, it's council, and then organizations can submit names to be on that commission. So it's a mix of all three. So if we could do it similarly here, where the entertainment industry submits names, and then those people would come here to this exact room, actually, to the rules committee, and then they would be interviewed, and then the council would vote on those individuals, and that's how we would do appointments. So it's about how many people we have on the commission, how many appointments go to each. I want to put forth having the same 3 union representatives that were in the previous legislation, so IATSE and SAG and AFM. So all of their voices are at the table automatically, because I think it's important that we're hearing from unions in the work that we're doing. I know we're a right-to-work state, but anybody who's been in a union, it's very, very, very frustrating to deal with that when you don't have unions in place. So if we know what their background is, and we're going with council and mayor and entertainment suggestions, is there another way? Yes, Peter.
Yeah, as we talked about the committees, the music committee, a film committee, whatnot, it certainly seems that that committee would probably have a better grasp on who would be a good working member of both their committee and also on the commission than, for example, with all due respect, general council members or the mayor's office. And as much as I'm all for them having people they can appoint, I think the bulk of this board should be selected, probably from the people from the industry who they're serving. And there's a structure to do that because there will be these committees that represent music and film and all the other branches of entertainment.
Agreed.
And this is really for the initial members of this commission. After that, I would think, would it change where there's some kind of like election cycle or bylaws, or would it be always that way? How does that work?
The way that this gets set up, it's deciding, that's actually my next question is terms. These could be 3-year, 4-year, 5-year terms that people are serving to be on here, and we would stagger it out to get it started out of the ultimate number of people. And that stays the same. It doesn't change. So whoever comes on, maybe you have 2 people that are serving 1-year terms. When those are over, then you have new people whose names will be selected. And so that'll be, the mayor and council will put that out. And there'll be another vote on those individuals. So I agree with you in what you're saying, that the industry should be picking people out. I think we need to figure out what that balance is, what that number would be.
Maybe the thing to do, and this makes a more complicated setup than originally was contemplated, but because there's these committees that represent each area, maybe the council and maybe the mayor can have representatives on those committees so that those committees have that input, but then from within that committee, that maybe where the people get chosen to be on the commission, or at least, or maybe a few of the people would be selected that way. That way.
So one council member appointed to the commission.
No, I'm not saying that specifically. That'd be great. I'm just saying that the people, the council and the mayor and the people from the industry and from the community could pick people to be on the committees, and then the committees could pick the people who would be on the commission, although there could also be commissioners who were appointed as well.
That sounds pretty complicated.
That does sound very complicated.
It's complicated,
That would be bedlam.
Possibly more democratic.
More than than what we've got going right now.
I don't think you can have people. I don't pick the chief of police because I'm not a policeman, and I don't want someone to pick the head of the film commission just because it's the mayor's buddy and he needs a job and a title.
Which is why the qualifications are important, so that we're not just picking somebody's
That's who
buddy.
should be on there, from the commission down to the committees. You get your people that are well qualified to be on the commission, which is the highest, right? Mm-hmm. And let them submit and pick and suggest names that would also benefit whatever part that they're representing. Who's the best people to represent that? The people that are experts in that field.
I absolutely agree that we should have the industry kind of picking the positions, but I do want to talk about this balance because I do think I worry about internal bias quite a bit, right? Like, I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna be honest about this, right? Like, Nashville is not the most diverse place. It has internal biases, and certainly that bias exists in the Nashville entertainment industry. And so I think, like, absolutely we need qualifications, absolutely a majority of the people should be picked by the people of the industry, but there definitely needs to be external forces that maintain a way to sort of,
Have balance?
yeah, have balance and sort of as a sort of a check to that bias, right? Balances and checks.
To diversify hiring.
It's not just diversification. It's not just diversification, right? Like, so, I mean, we all know this. Like, we don't talk about this in this industry, but it's a dirty truth about it. Like, let's say you piss off whoever is the EP of whatever show, and then, that person is well established in this industry, and now you've got this, like, black ball effect in your part, right? Like, and it happens all the time. Like, I know this because I've seen it happen. And so this is why the whole, like, outside of Nashville or Tennessee, the whole Time's Up movement happened in our industry, because people felt like a lot of assistants who moved up or didn't get moved up had lots of stories about what was going on for those people, right? Like the way they were treated. And that's like universally accepted now in the outer film and TV industry, right? So like Nashville, because it doesn't have that many shows, hasn't really been part of that conversation, but it's definitely one of the big things.
Well, I think there's labor and state laws that address that. I'm not sure if that's something that this committee
Well,
have any kind of power or say other than,
Yeah, we're not trying to have power and say over anything. We're just trying to make sure there's a balance.
well, there's if we can put in there that there has to be a commitment to diversity and that there must be representation on this commission that reflects the diversity of this city, so that we don't end up with a homogenized commission, because that doesn't help us. I mean, everyone is contributing creatively in this town. We have so many different projects going on. I've been here for 16 years, but now to see, even in terms of music, we've got rock, we've got R&B, we've got hip hop. We didn't have when I first moved here, and knowing that there's real television and production happening now. When I first moved here, and I moved here from New York, I knew I had to stop acting because there wasn't any union work for me to do here. But that's changing, which is amazing, and I'm really happy about that. So this is good that we're supporting and figuring out how do we support our creatives in a functional way. Let's see here. What should the commission focus on? So we've talked about diversity and equity. We've talked about workforce development, strategic planning. Anything else? Hiring the executive director. What else?
I suspect there's going to be a lot of things that come up that we can't anticipate. I'm looking at the Memphis Commission, for example, which has been very effective, but they have issues that come up there where they have to make a new plan. They have a particular way that they want to recruit a show, and they need to find them various kinds of incentives, whether from the state, the city, or industry. And I think that's going to be their ongoing responsibility. And it won't be a continual thing, because there won't always be the beginning of a production to serve, but it will be a regular activity, because every production or every industry is going to need something at some point.
I think it's going to have to be flexible. Things are going to change. Different needs and different stuff brought up, and you change them and modify them and address them as they come up.
I mean, there's definitely, the executive director can do this as well, but there's definitely going to be a need for the commission members to participate in activities liaising with government, recruiting projects, and resolving issues for, projects that are indigenous.
So also creating that communication channel between, this commission would be kind of a governmental body with the communities. So where projects are going, to let people know that their projects are coming, and how people can engage and learn about what's happening in their neighborhood as well. So it's not a surprise that one day you wake up and there's like a barricade down your street and there's a movie shooting, you didn't know anything about it. Because I don't think we require right now notification in that way to say, hey guys, there's going to be
It's only
a
informal.
production.
It says to do it on the permit, but there's no follow-up on that. And I doubt many people actually fully read all the fine print.
Most people don't read fine print on just
Yeah.
about anything. So, okay.
You need a lawyer to interpret it, that's why.
This one's pretty easy, though.
Okay. Well, those are the three questions that we had the other day, and I wanted to be sure that we had a chance to talk about here for those people that weren't in the room. When we talked about size, when we talked about one or two commissions, we did a lot of sticky notes the other day, and so I did take a picture. So it definitely seemed that there was more of a leaning towards one than two. Numbers I saw between 11, 15, 19. What do you? I know you said 11 to 21, but just getting your opinions. I was thinking 19. What do you guys think?
I think you want a number that's divisible by a certain number of years that you're going to have, right? Because 19, you can't, you want it to be an odd number, but you also then need to have different, kind of classes as well. So I don't know how you mark that out, if you know what I mean.
What do you mean by classes?
Well, if these people rolling off the board and rolling onto the board. Hello.
Hi.
You-
Oh my
we're still
goodness,
going.
you made it.
Come on in.
It was
Oh, yeah.
Glad we're still here.
For instance, so the first board, if they're only first people that are on the commission only serve a year, then they'd be like the class of 2023. They'd be that you want it to be able to be even, so that the different.
Well, so the point would be
classes,
that the appointments would then address that. So when one person's appointment is coming up, you have time to look for who would be a good fit for this replacement, because it could be that they're in one specific industry, whether it's film or music or it's something else. But I think if we have an overarching commission, I still think it needs to be clear that it can never be majority of one industry. There has to be a split there, so that it's equitable, and so we can have those multiple voices. And we have so many opportunities for overlap that I think you can still have all the voices there and still address all of the needs. And so, welcome, Hazel.
Thank you.
We are talking right now about a commission for entertainment and what that would look like, and a size, what the commission would do, who would serve on it, and then also how those appointments would be made. So if you would like to introduce yourself for those that may not know you.
Good evening. My name is Hazel Jonas Smith, and I am the founder and director of the International Black Film Festival. We are 18 years old. We're the only African American film festival in the state of Tennessee, and we offer educational programs, internship programs, and provide a platform for creatives throughout the world to come and showcase their work through our program.
Excellent. So I will get you just run down what we've talked about because you came in, we were just getting ready to wrap up. So talking about having a commission that addresses all of our creative industries so that no one is left behind. We were discussing having one or having two, and trying to make sure, as I said, music, we know we're Music City, we know that music is important, but we have been leaving film and television, and we also have fashion, we have AI, all of these new frontiers that are not getting proper attention. And what we've done in the past is make silos across the board. And then the silos don't talk, and you end up having duplicative efforts. And so we can figure out having a commission and maybe not having a title that says music and film and entertainment, but rather entertainment creation. That was part of what came out of a conversation the other day, talking about the creation of the entertainment office. And we talked about people serving on the commission having 5 years of experience with national and local or international credits, legitimate credits, not just I'm making videos in my basement. So we're making sure that we're bringing people to the table that have real experience, but also from the C-suite down to boots on the ground. So we're having real-time knowledge about what the needs are, and not just a 30,000 view perspective. In terms of appointments, we're talking about having council appoint, the mayor appoint, and then the entertainment community itself could put names forth when there is an opening, and then those individuals would submit questionnaires to the office and then come before the rules committee at council, and then council would vote on those individuals and they would be appointed to the commission. And one of the biggest things was talking about having an overarching commission, but having breakout subcommittees. So you could have a music subcommittee, you could have a film subcommittee, AI or fashion, and those subcommittee members are not necessarily a part of the commission, but could be members of that industry outside, still with the same qualifications, so that they're coming to the table and bringing some knowledge base. But we get some more perspective, and then it also takes the load off of the greater body and the work that they have to do working with the office. So we're talking about having the commission, selecting the executive director, and also working with promotion and marketing and recruiting, and also workforce development. Did I get everything? Did I leave anything out? Okay. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I had a quick sort of thought, which is like, as far as the film and TV subcommittee goes, kind of like what we were talking about with like addressing different departments, right? That's almost a natural thing for us to do, because within our subcommittee of film and TV, that we already are used to having like transport department, right? Like location services, like catering, crafting, all of that. So like that already happens for most of our shows, whether depending on the budget, of course, that those departments kind of are adhered to or not adhered to. But I'm just talking about productions that actually have the budget for it. So that subcommittee of film arts, right? I'd rather say cinematic arts, or because like film and TV, it's just not a thing anymore in my head. So just the cinematic arts subcommittee, I feel like it's naturally has those kind of departments that can be part of it, and like that's an easy place, kind of going back to the gentleman talking about stunts, right? Like there's already a lot of professionals who are in that department, then they can kind of like figure out who their representative is going to be out of that group, and that's how we do everything in the industry anyways. Like even our award season is based upon guilds basically nominating their own people for, so that kind of thing. So that's very easy for us to do. I'm just kind of trying to figure out, because we're also trying to address music and fashion and sort of, is there sort of like, I'm not even aware of like how codified those industries are in terms of like our ours? Like, is there like a departmental thing going on, or?
So that's part of the issue, is that fashion has been burgeoning, and there are a lot of people outside of Nashville looking at us and saying that they want to be here, but we don't have a system to help them elevate and strategize, which is why it would be good for them to be a part of this. And to your point, those individuals that are very active within that field, they know how fashion works and how to reach out to the individuals that they would need in terms of having a subcommittee as well to build that networking.
Great. Okay.
So,
And are we also thinking about performative arts as in theater and dance?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, have to. I said this to someone the other day, like theater is just the bald-headed stepchild in Nashville. Just, it's unfortunate, but I think we're finally in a place where we can start to begin to figure out how we can address it. Finally.
Yeah, and I will, if I can speak for a second on theater.
Yes.
Because it was brought up on Tuesday that there's already an arts commission that already addresses that. And I will say that the arts commission will only deal with not-for-profit theater. And so there are for-profit theaters, or there are theaters that don't make any profit but don't have a board, and therefore the Arts Commission is not of use to them. And what we're talking about in this group, these are all for-profit industries, and we're trying to serve them as for-profit industries. And so to be able to look at theater at that same way, I think is legitimate, and not always to lump it into not-for-profit arts.
Thank you. I have that in my notes.
I had two other comments, if I can.
Please.
One is, in terms of the size of the commission, beyond the appointed members of the commission, at their meetings, it's going to serve them well if there's going to be multiple committees that are dealing with things such as fashion that will not necessarily be part of the bigger subcommittees. Those committee representatives may need to attend these meetings to be able to share what's going on in their area. So if the board is too big, then once you get the committee people in there, even if it's just the chairs, it's a very large group. So you may want to keep, that may be a reason to keep the core commission at a smaller level so that there's room to add these ex officio members from the committees.
So those members wouldn't be a part of the commission, though, right? So they
may not be voting members of the commission, but they would like staff does at the planning commission. You're going to want to have them be in attendance so they can share their information with the commission.
But wouldn't, if we have the overarching commission, we have a member from the commission that is on these committees, so they'd be going back to the greater body to share what's happening from the committees.
I agree. I'm just thinking about some of these smaller groups, fashion, AI, things like that, where they may have a subcommittee that's much smaller, and then how do they get their information from their branch back to the main commission?
Wouldn't those people already be in the commission?
I think if we get the larger body created and break out some of the subcommittee needs, I think from there they can determine how they want to affiliate.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you did, but I think it might go too much into minutia for legislation, but I think we can still understand where that can go.
And then the other comment I want to make is about naming this. And I agree that, film is an antiquated term. People don't shoot on film very much anymore. But when people discuss commissions, when a motion picture production company is looking for somebody to interface with in local government, they're not going to look up cinematic arts. They're not going to look up transmedia. They're not going to look up even entertainment creation. There's the lingua franca is they will say, who is the film commission? Who do we speak to? And so
For now.
Well, eventually things will be different, but I'm just
But
saying.
the office may still remain music, film, and entertainment. So this commission might have a different name, but
Okay,
the
that's fine.
office itself, so then that would
The
be in the
commission's
title.
name I'm not
Yeah.
concerned about because it's not going to be the outward-facing group.
Correct.
All right.
So the office itself, I think, because the mayor named it, right? I mean,
All right, then I'm fine. Then that's all
cool
my
beans.
problem.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any other comments? Got 9 minutes to spare. So, well, I really appreciate you all coming out here with Live on the Green happening. I do have tickets for you all for free
I got
parking.
many texts from people who said they would be here, but they're working. So,
Well, and
Memphis,
yay, right?
in East Tennessee and other places out of state.
Well, so that's good. And then if they have any thoughts, if you can send them these questions, and if they have thoughts, then we can include that. So,
Quick question, sorry, please, no.
Hazel?
Well, I'm sorry, it was a obstacle course training.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to know about the makeup again of the commission. What's the incentive for people to be on the commission, and how? And I saw here that you're going to, I guess, draft a job description of the executive director.
Yes, we have not gotten to that point yet. So the conversation that we had a couple of days ago, we talked about the office, asking people what they wanted to see the office do, but it really was a preliminary conversation. We did not establish exactly what the mission was going to be or what the executive director was going to do. We started those conversations. I think there's going to be another group gathering. And we began to talk about the commission because the commission has been up for legislation for the last couple of months. So this would be the advising body for the office.
Yeah, that concerns me. So many people have no idea what anybody would do because they don't understand the industries. There has to be a nurturing of the general public that will, and in so many cases, become a governing body or have input in how things are set up. I just got off the phone to, our festival is coming up, to several sororities and other organizations like the Links, explaining to them to why it's important to support emerging filmmakers. But they didn't just understand anything beyond after they bought the ticket and saw the movie. Really, and so it was, we had to do like a lesson, to explain, why supporting emerging filmmakers is important, and developing a workforce and starting it early and making sure that, that there are people here that can do the work as we are trying to pull people into the state. I'm just going to, sorry.
Completely agree. Yeah, I think that's one of the committees that we might have talked about it a little bit, but like a community education, kind of like community outreach.
And engagement, so people,
yeah.
just like we're letting people know, which we clearly are not, when someone's coming into your neighborhood to shoot something,
Yeah.
how do we build relationships so people can be excited about filmmaking or, about any shooting, any content creation that's taking place, that's happening in their neighborhood, particularly if someone's coming to a school or coming to a park and people are going to be observing. Kids might want to learn, how can I be a part of that? So we need to build those bridges.
They have some big film schools at classes at MTSU.
We do, yeah.
We have a lot of film schools,
Yeah.
a lot of film classes.
But we don't have liaisons to those schools. We just know that we have schools that have film programs, and we aren't talking to those
concerned
people.
about their students because the students paid them. So,
Right.
so I'm
And then they're leaving because they can't stay here because we don't have to
Right.
work here for them to stay. So that's really the work of the commission, is to create that bridge that we don't have currently, that we know that we need to create communication, to create training, apprenticeships, engage our multiple neighborhoods, because we have a variety of areas here, and each area has a different personality, and you need to know who are those community leaders. So it's easy to work and create opportunities that way. I appreciate your question. Did you have one more statement that you wanted to
I
make?
was just going to ask you, you had mentioned something about soft sort of incentives, but has there been a talk of, as far as like what sort of incentives the commission's going to have for productions that are going to come in?
We have not had that conversation, because those incentives would probably be through the office, which we have not gotten to yet. So
great.
the soft incentive conversation is coming. I know certainly there are incentives you can give that are in set amounts of money, or you can do rebates on hotel rooms or on office space or warehouse space. That can be enticing. We just haven't had that conversation yet, but certainly it's on the table. I think for the time being, the commission would be focused on how do we engage with the state, what we have.
Right.
I think having this commission really helps us create a better dialogue for getting more funding. To say, look, well, Nashville finally has a structured office to address our creative industries. How about we get some more money towards incentives? Because right now it's only $2 million, which is nothing. And it needs to be greatly increased. So. If there are no more questions, I want to thank you all for braving traffic and live on the green and coming out today to talk about entertainment. I think
What's
this
the
is
timeline on having this in place, having the commission and everything in place? What's your timeline?
so. This is legislation that's we've been working on it for the last couple of months, and so we've got another iteration coming up this week on Tuesday to vote for the creation of the commission. And then once it is created, it still has to go through a third reading. If it goes through this Tuesday, third reading would be in 2 weeks. And then from there, it's about deciding when we would want to start building the commission. We don't have to do it right away. We could wait. But we still have other conversations to have with the office as well about its creation.
Okay. Could we, could we get the minutes from other meetings where you've had discussions on?
I don't think we have any printed minutes. You could watch video from council from the meetings from
They're on YouTube, and I've pulled a bunch of those links, and I can send them to you.
I love that.
Yeah, I need to put them all in one place because I've done it a few different times.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Good stuff. Well, drive safely. Thank you all for watching, and we will adjourn with 1 minute to spare. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay.